Hello everybody and welcome to the first part of What If Naruto learned of his heritage early. I hope you enjoy this what if. Also comment, like and subscribe to the channel for more what ifs. Chapter 1, The Fourth Hokage's Legacy. Naruto was well aware he was disliked by a majority of the Konoha population, hated even. However, even though they hated him, he was never harmed. He received no more than an icy glare, insults behind his back, and shunning. His safety was ensured by the ANBU guards the Sandaime ordered to protect him, but it still hurt emotionally. The old man would have prevented his people from hurting the boy's heart if he could, but to enforce a law like that was impossible. Not to mention until now, those who held a grudge against the Kyuubi never tried anything against its container in fear the demon itself would run amok. The people of Konoha weren't crazy, but even the Hokage couldn't keep an eye on every shinobi. And even if he could, there was always that one individual that would spell trouble over Konoha's jinchuriki. Danzo was a prime example. Nevertheless, Sarutobi Hiruzen counted his blessings. He didn't yet need his ANBU to get rid of those stupid enough to harm Naruto. However, that night changed everything. Hiragi Yuma was a survivor of the Third Shinobi War, one of the first few ninjutsu users in IWA. He retired from his profession shortly after the war ended, because he wasn't just a regular seal master who worked in the village. Researching and producing seals for a living was not for him. He was a front-line seal master who worked as backup on the battlefield. His forte was fast execution of a seal rather than the complexity of it, allowing him to support his comrades. However, no one was fast enough to deal with Konoha's yellow flash. He was thoroughly humiliated when Namikaze Minato slaughtered the IWA force before he could even pick a brush. The only reason he survived the encounter was because he was hiding under his comrade's corpse, suppressing his chakra. He would never forget the eyes that appeared to glow a brilliant shade of delphinium when they gazed in his direction. His breath had hitched, and he'd wondered if the sense of inevitable death was a shared feeling among his comrades in face of the swift and deadly yellow flash. But Yuma did not hold a grudge against Namikaze Minato like the rest of his village. He found it to be pointless since people on both sides were dying. Instead, he chose to admire him as a seal master. The man was a genius, and Yuma was envious. He was talented in sealing, having spent his whole life mastering it, but he would never come close to Namikaze's level. The saying, talent hits a target no one else can hit, while genius hits a target that no one else can see, couldn't be truer. Namikaze Minato set his own unreachable target, creating seals no one previously thought to be possible. Yuma retired knowing it was time to give up chasing Namikaze. The gap between them was too large to be closed and chasing the dream was pointless. However, in his 5th year of retirement, news spread like wildfire that Namikaze Minato died when the Kyuubi attacked Konoha. Rumors started floating, most were nonsense, but one caught his interest. Namikaze Minato had given up his life using a seal against Kyuubi, and there was a possibility Konoha created another jinchuriki. It was obvious to say Yuma was curious. A high-level seal master wouldn't die sealing a bijou so long as it was performed right. Namikaze dying from a mistake was a far-fetched idea considering many masters before him had succeeded. That meant only one thing. Namikaze Minato had used a special kind of seal that required such a sacrifice. Konoha was probably the only village that would never flaunt their jinchuriki. In fact, all that anyone knew was that Konoha possessed the Kyuubi, and that there were 2 jinchuriki before the most recent one. The first fact was common knowledge. The second fact could be known if one calculated a person's lifespan. His curiosity about the last seal Namikaze Minato ever created grew, and he decided to pay Konoha a visit. He had to find Konoha's 3rd jinchuriki, the Yondaime Hokage's legacy. It was no easy feat sneaking into Konoha, especially with the barrier created by the Uzumaki clan protecting the village. He would have had to devote a lot of time and research into exploiting a weak spot, but fortunately, he found someone willing to trade information. In exchange for a safe route, all he had to do was hand over his life's work to Konoha's most dangerous missing nin, Orochimaru. It was almost an unfair exchange, but seeing the last work of Namikaze himself was worth it. Once he was able to sneak in, it was a piece of cake. Hiragi Yuma might be a top seal master of IWA, but he never made a name for himself, considering Namikaze Minato and Jiraiya of the Sannin were hogging all the fame. He didn't even bother with a henge, dressing like a civilian was enough to do the trick. Finding info about their jinchuriki was surprisingly easy, and all it took was sitting in front of a dango shop. When 6-year-old blonde boy with blue eyes walked past, civilians and shinobi alike gave him a wide berth while breaking into a hushed whisper. Yuma easily overheard one of the customers in the dango shop mutter "monster" under his breath. Bingo. Yuma didn't cheer mentally for long, because he soon realized this hated child couldn't be walking around without supervision. ANBU had to be near to keep an eye on the child. It was the standard protocol for all non-adult jinchuriki, and this child was no exception. If his experience of watching over Han was anything to go by, then this child was shunned by his own village out of fear. How stupid. What if the child snapped and went berserk? IWA had learned the hard way with Han. If not for Rushi and Inoki subduing the young jinchuriki, IWA would have done the equivalent of suicide and embarrassingly wiped themselves off the map. Now, though, IWA learned to deal with their jinchuriki by letting them get away from the village, or in other words, voluntary exile. But forget about his village and their jinchuriki for now. He had to think of how to get to the child without ANBU noticing. He was a simple Tokubetsu jounin, so taking on Konoha's ANBU was definitely suicide. He had to be extremely careful when following the child and his guards, since it was easy to alert them accidentally. He observed them from afar for days and found ANBU didn't follow the child 24/7. Surprisingly, because they couldn't. Once in a while, the child would prank the villagers for attention or to deal out some form of payback. When the boy would flee or hide, the ANBU had a hard time following him even with his bright hair color and vibrant, orange shirt. The boy could be stealthy when he wanted to be, it seemed. Of course, ANBU didn't lose him for long, maybe a few minutes or so, but that was plenty enough time for Yuma. On his 6th day in Konoha, he planted a number of seals in the main marketplace and waited for the show to begin. He was not disappointed when the jinchuriki executed his latest prank, a pink-colored smoke spreading throughout the marketplace. It was harmless, but the rose smell was strong enough to make even women flee to escape the sickening sweet smell. Yuma himself almost hurled but refrained, because today's prank would serve his cause well. Once again, ANBU lost their charge, and this time it was longer than usual because of the smoke and smell. In the same time, Yuma activated his seal, which caused the other side of the marketplace to explode. It was harmless in that it was mostly smoke and sound. It was designed to be a distraction with minor damage and no casualties, so they would be more inclined to believe it was the jinchuriki's prank. ANBU, of course, thought it was their charge or a possible enemy ninja, but for a moment, Yuma feared that the ANBU would linger. He grinned as they rushed away, allowing him to duck into the small alleyway he saw the boy run in earlier. Yuma couldn't believe his luck when he saw the jinchuriki still there, hopping up to reach the rooftop of a building nearby. The jinchuriki was obviously curious about the explosion. Wonder what happened over there. Enemy ninja. His eyes widened when he felt pain on the back of his head, and then everything went black. Yuma sighed in relief as he hoisted the jinchuriki on his back. He then applied a genjutsu over the child so he looked like a little, brunette girl with fair skin. He quickly retreated back to the crowded street a bit further away from the market where the civilians were busy fussing over the jinchuriki's latest prank. Yuma stiffened and turned away when he saw a woman with a son glance at him curiously. His eyes briefly caught the red and white fan symbol stitched into their clothes and flinched. Uchiha. Shit. No. The seal master turned around slowly, faking a kind fatherly smile. Good afternoon, Uchiha-san, he greeted the Uchiha woman genially. What a fine day, isn't it? Uchiha Makoto raised an eyebrow. It had been a while since anyone greeted an Uchiha so politely like this man did. She had called out to him simply because she sensed something off about him, or was it the child? Now that she thought about it, it was probably her just being paranoid. Good afternoon to you, too. The breeze is indeed very nice today. Is that why your daughter fell asleep? She asked with a smile on her lips. The man nodded stiffly. Yes, she also exhausted herself playing in the playground today. He added, mentally cursing himself for engaging in a conversation with an Uchiha. It was truly fortunate he hadn't used a henge at all on himself. If he had, she would be even more suspicious. I see. She said softly. Then I will be on my way. She muttered as she turned to walk away, but Sasuke stopped her with a frown. Ka-san. Mikoto tugged on Sasuke's hand, gently dragging him with her. Not now, Sasuke. If there's anything you want to buy, it'll have to wait, she said as the father-daughter pair walked away from them. But, Ka-san. Sasuke whined. That man lied. Sasuke, the Uchiha matriarch warned. Don't accuse someone you just met, especially a civilian at that. They were in a bad enough position in the village as it was, and it would be bad if rumors of Sasuke accusing civilians as liars spread. Besides, why would he lie to me? She asked logically. Sasuke frowned, then muttered, yes, Ka-san. Obediently, he followed his mother back to the Uchiha compound. Sasuke recalled the only playground in Konoha was not currently usable. When he and Itachi had walked around the park yesterday, there was a repair in progress sign near the playground. Itachi was shaking his head when he said someone named Guy accidentally ran into it or something along that line. So that man lied to his mother about his daughter exhausting herself playing, but Ka-san was right. The man had no reason to lie, or did he? Ka-san wouldn't listen, so he'd have to tell his brother later. Naruto blinked his eyes open and looked at his surroundings. He was in a large room with lots of boxes and bottles, a sake warehouse. He crinkled his nose at the scent. He hated the smell of sake as it reminded him of the drunks that said unpleasant things to him. Naruto startled when he set his eyes on a stranger smiling at him with a genuine smile. The man had long, brown hair and green eyes, and his build was similar to the Anbu he had seen before with a dog mask. Hello, kid, are you all right? Yuma asked. Now that he had a close look at the child, Yuma could see the similarity between him and Namikaze. IWA would freak if they knew the Yondaime Hokage had managed to procreate and turn the boy into a jinchuriki. Who are you? I am Uzumaki Naruto. The Hokage had told him that it was common courtesy to give his own name before asking for someone else's. Uzumaki. He raised an eyebrow at the name. Yuma pointed at his chest and said, me. My name is Hiragi, so just call me Hiragi-san. His family name was pretty common, so telling the child was harmless. Hiragi-san, Naruto tested the name. I think I will call you Aji-chan instead. Yuma sighed. He deserved it since he was the same age as the Yondaime. Fine. Naruto eyed Yuma curiously. Why am I here? He asked. He grinned at that and said, oh, you were knocked out by a bad person. I saved you and brought you here. If his observation was correct, this child had never been attacked before and incredibly lonely. If someone saved him, they could easily earn his trust. You're safe here, Naruto-kun. And for added bonus, he ruffled the child's soft, spiky hair. This was the moment of truth. If a Shun Jinchuriki was touched, they would either lash out or welcome the affection as a sign of trust. As expected, the child looked at him admiringly. Thank you, Aji-chan. Yuma smirked inwardly. That had been easier than he'd thought it would be. You're welcome, Naruto-kun. Then he added after a beat, but it seems the enemy ninja did something to you, he lied smoothly. I can fix it for you though, Yuma assured the child. Don't worry and just leave everything to me. Naruto paled at the thought of an enemy ninja having done something horrible to him. Now. Yuma rummaged through his backpack and pulled out a storage scroll. He unsealed a wooden board the size of an adult with a seal array carved into it. Naruto watched the unsealing in awe. That's so cool, Hiragi Ajiken. What is that? Ninjutsu. Hiragi smirked. Not quite his father's child, huh? This is Fuinjutsu. It's one of the most complex shinobi arts, see this array here. He tapped the board on the ground. You use hand seals to mold chakra for ninjutsu, while in Fuinjutsu we use these to tell chakra what to do. Is it hard? Naruto's eyes were shining with glee. Depends on you. He didn't see anything wrong with indulging the child. He needed Naruto's full cooperation anyway. You have to be good in arithmetic, chakra theory, and calligraphy basically. Naruto crinkled his nose. I don't like any of that. Can that even be used like cool ninjutsu? Hiragi snorted, the Yondaime Hokage was a magnificent seal master. The next thing Hiragi knew, Naruto had latched his small body onto his arm like a koala. Teach me. He gave the seal master his puppy eyes. Please. Hiragi faltered. He had discovered another scary way to use Namikaze's azure eyes. I will fix you first, then we can talk about this again, okay, kid? Okay. Naruto agreed as he hopped off of Hiragi, bouncing on his feet. The seal master sweat dropped at the sight of the hyper kid and silently thanked God that he was no longer an IWA shinobi. Namikaze surely knew how to pick a wife. The rumor of his lover being the habanero was true, it seemed. The two monsters of Konoha procreated. This kid would be one hell of a shinobi. Then again, it was none of his business. He only wanted the data of Namikaze's last work, and then he was going to get out of Konoha faster than you could say ninja. Now lay down here, Naruto-kun, and take off your shirt. Naruto obeyed the instruction, but shuddered when his skin touched the cold wood. Now what, Hiragi-ajikan? He asked. Hiragi smiled. Just relax, you're going to fall asleep, and when I finish you will be as good as new. Okay. Naruto cheered. Hiragi formed seals for a sleep-inducing genjutsu, and Naruto quickly fell asleep. Finally, he sighed in relief. Pretending to be a kind uncle is exhausting. He grumbled under his breath, now, let me see the last work of Namikaze Minato. He activated the seal array on the board, causing a seal to appear on Naruto's stomach. He gaped at the sight. Unbelievable, no wonder he died to make this. The seal was different than any other seal he'd seen before. There was not just one seal, there was 3 layers of seals. At first glance, it would look like only one seal, but a top-notch seal master would know there were 2 other seals. The first seal was the main seal that tied the jinchuriki and his bijou together. The second and third, however, would be triggered in certain circumstances. Hiragi would bet they were fail-safe seals, and, considering the main seal and the bijou it held, it made Hiragi wonder what kind of seal those were. No one ever made a fail-safe seal for a jinchuriki. Then again, villages that had jinchuriki didn't have Namikaze Minato. Hiragi couldn't suppress his growing curiosity and envy of the last work of the Yondaime. He badly wanted to unravel the seal, but that would have required him to be on the same level as Namikaze Minato or risk his life. He cackled at the thought. If I died here, it would be justified. I was supposed to die when he slaughtered my team anyway. It would be an honor to die for my research. He wondered if this was his sanity wavering again, one of the many reasons for his retirement. Then again, why would he care for the consequences? The worst thing that could happen would be unleashing the Kyuubi in Konoha, and that would only be giving Konoha what it deserved. Naruto would never have been so vulnerable and easily swayed if they hadn't shunned him. It was probably charity to the brat to let him have his own revenge. With that in mind, Hiragi continued his work, but first sealed everything he cherished inside a special storage scroll. It was more durable than the average storage scroll in that it could withstand explosive tags and other harming elements. Nothing weaker than a Bijudama could destroy it, he supposed as he began to work. Kyuubi perked up, growling when he saw the Yondaime walk up to his cage. What do you want, Yondaime? Someone is trying to tamper with the seal, the blonde Hokage muttered. I don't know why, but it activated the failsafe temporarily. Kushina then appeared beside him. It activated mine too. She growled. Who's the fool? If I get my hands on the guy, I'll kill him. Kyuubi rolled his eyes. You're dead, Kushina, he pointed out with a deadpan tone. The second jinchuriki of the Kyuubi glared at her ex-prisoner. Thank you for reminding me, she growled, but what happened to my son? He was her main concern. Minato paled when he saw Kyuubi's chakra leak from his cage. Kyuubi. You. The bijou bared his fangs. Not my doing, Yondaime. In case your memory is as bad as your mate's, your seal is designed so the brat can borrow my chakra, the fox pointed out. I did not will even a small fraction of it to leak into his system, so if it kills the brat and me too, you have no one to blame but yourself. Minato grit his teeth. You really? His eyes widened. Kushina. Your chakra. Kushina looked at herself. My chakra, it seeped into Naruto's. Mine too, what's happening? Is the failsafe seal broken? He quickly went to check the seal on the Kyuubi's cell. This one is safe, at least, for now. Kushina breathed a sigh of relief. That's good, I checked the failsafe chakra too and it doesn't seem like it's going to break but. Minato asked, dreading her next words. But what? Some of our chakra and memories has seeped through because of this. I don't know how it will affect our son. Kushina clasped her fingers together. Naruto. Kyuubi snorted, it's been boring here save for his occasional prank anyway. As long as it's not life-threatening, who cares? We care. The fox laughed at that, but frowned when he saw the yondaime and his wife disappear from the sewer. It seemed the seal had stabilized again. He wondered what had happened to them just now, though he didn't truly care. He just didn't want the couple to be able to annoy him all the time. Hiragi left the warehouse in a daze, terrified of what he'd almost done. He at first thought he could be careless even if he was killed when he examined the seal, but the chakra excess Naruto emitted almost made him insane with the killing intent. Kyuubi's chakra was malicious. It didn't matter how hardened you were as a shinobi, it would make you quiver in fear. It was just so intense and full of hatred, it terrorized your senses until you wanted nothing but for it to stop. It was a mistake. A mistake. He puked the contents of his stomach and then toddled like a newborn calf. He leaned against a tree, his eyes glazed as his whole body trembled. A squad of ANBU landed in front of him, ordering him to come with them without resistance and so on. The same standard procedure in every village. Too bad for them, he had no intentions of going with them, knowing he would be interrogated. He had made a mistake that left his mind in shambles, and the only salvation was what any seal master would do. While it had to do with the offspring of the genius bastard he'd been jealous of for so long, at least he was certain his life's work wouldn't be lost in vain. Back in the warehouse, Naruto woke up with a yawn and looked around to find the nice Aji-chan was nowhere to be seen. He was about ready to cry at being left alone once again, but his teary eyes caught sight of an expensive-looking scroll right beside him. His eyes widened when he saw the note attached to it. Naruto-kun, I have to leave for an important mission and will likely never come back. As promised, here is a scroll to teach you everything I know about Fuinjutsu. Use this scroll to follow in your father's footsteps and become a great seal master. I am sorry I left without telling you. Goodbye. Naruto smiled. Hiragi Jishin didn't break his promise. He rubbed the inner side of his left thigh and applied the necessary amount of pressure. It was a failsafe he had never bothered to remove, a sheet of poison his superior had planted in his leg for suicide. As pain racked his body, Hiragi Yuma smiled at the ANBU who gasped at his pained expression. Namikaze, you better thank me for what I have given to your son. I may have tampered with the seal with my half-assed skill, but what I gave him. See you again in the next life, genius. Second legacy, prisoner of hatred. Humans are fickle beings, they could hate as strong as they love, greedier than demon and seek pleasure from slaughtering for power. Kurama, the nine-tailed fox. Naruto ran back to his home with the scroll Hiragi Jishin gave him safely tucked in his backpack. He was grinning from ear to ear at the prospect of learning cool Fuinjutsu and becoming a seal master like the yondaime and Hiragi Jishin. He frowned at the sight of an ANBU squad stationed in front of his home and stopped before jogging to them. Hello, good evening, what ya doing here? The ANBU with a bird-looking mask crossed his arms. Where were you, Naruto-kun? Torai asked worriedly. They had gotten the corpse of the man suspected for kidnapping Naruto, but further investigation indicated the man was alone. They had combed through the Enitor village before being ordered to wait for the child in front of his home, while another squad was assigned to continue their search. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Shouldn't you know where I am? Like all the time, he pointed out, innocently unaware he had scored a jab on the ANBU squad, losing him again. Naruto-kun, Tori warned, flushing under his mask, we're going to see Hokage-sama. And then after a beat he added, and you're grounded. 3 days of no pranking and no ramen. Naruto flinched at that. Sorry, Tori. I'll just put my backpack in my room first, okay? A bear-masked ANBU stretched his hand out to Naruto, and the boy quietly gave the backpack to him. Kuma sighed as he jumped to Naruto's balcony and put the backpack there. No one would steal it anyway. Naruto opened his mouth to protest leaving his backpack there, but Tori hoisted him up onto his shoulder like a sack of potatoes before he could. "You're in trouble, Naruto-kun," Tori stated in a stern tone as they took their first leap to the Hokage Tower. "But Tori Itachi," Naruto whined. Tori was the only ANBU of the squad who talked to him. It was not like the rest of the squad was not allowed to speak, but Tori was the spokesman of the squad. But throughout his childhood, Naruto could discern from their body language what they wanted to convey. If they crossed their arms with a lifted chin or tapped their limbs, that meant he was in trouble and was going to get grounded. If their shoulders shook slightly, that meant he had done something that amused them. No buts. Naruto had read the rest of the note Hiragi left, including the part that asked him to keep the scroll a secret. Hiragi meant for the scroll to be for Naruto alone, not Konoha. If they knew about the scroll, it would be taken away from him, and while the child was warned of that prospect, he was torn between telling Hokage Jishin and lying to him. The Hokage had always been kind to him and had even assigned an ANBU squad to protect him. Naruto owed the Sandaime a lot, and the least he could do was be honest with him. But Sandaime Jishin never told him anything about his parents, and whenever Naruto asked, he swiftly dodged the question. The only thing Naruto knew was that they had passed away as heroes, but how they were heroes was never explained. He also never told him why he was shunned by everyone either. "I fell asleep in the forest." Technically it was true. He had been sleeping, but it was in a sake warehouse on the outskirts of Konoha. "The weather was nice and when I woke up was it late," he mumbled. Since Sandaime didn't trust him with a number of things, Naruto thought it was only fair he kept some secrets, too. The Sandaime, of course, was well aware that Naruto was lying, but what good would it do to force the truth out of Naruto? The child had a stubborn streak a mile wide that he'd inherited from his parents. "I see. You may go." That night changed everything. On the way back home, he was once again carried by Tori. Naruto's eyes were glazed as a number of scenes played out in his mind. "The main character is just like you, sensei." "Naruto, it's a beautiful name. Realize what's the most important thing to your brother. I hope our sons will be good friends. Neither shinobi nor jinchuriki." "Naruto." Tori called out. He chuckled when he saw the boy was sleeping on his back. "Fell asleep, I see." Kuma snorted. "He ran us dry today." Deep within Naruto, Kyuubi scrunched his nose. It seemed what the Yondaime and his wife feared had come true. The memories and chakra had leaked into Naruto's system. Never mind Kyuubi's problem though. The Bijou was well aware there were small amounts of his chakra leaking into Naruto to build the boy's resistance to it. Kyuubi had been pretty much resigned about it since the moment he was sealed into Naruto. Clink clank clink. He'd had 2 women as his jinchuriki, so a brat couldn't be any worse of an option in his book. He had contemplated driving Naruto insane, but his pride wouldn't allow him to sink to the same level as Shikaku. Seriously, that Tanuki brought a bad name to Bijou, always throwing his name around in his drunken stupors. Had he no shame or pride to keep the honorable name their father bestowed upon them? Clink clank clink. Speaking of pride, he wondered how his fellow Bijou were faring with their jinchuriki. When Kushina was still alive, he had heard about Matatabi and Gyuki. It seemed Gyuki had been a good friend with his jinchuriki or something like that. Ha! The second strongest Bijou had submit himself to a life of servitude for shinobi. Clink clank clink. "Shut up!" Kyuubi roared to no one in particular. "Kushina! Stop playing with your chain or I will." He paused, contemplating what he could do to threaten his ex-jailer, someone who was an avatar that existed by chakra and the memory of her son. Nothing came up. Wait a minute, the avatar should be back to a dormant state by now, so where was the rattling sound coming from? On second thought, he couldn't care less. He just wanted it to stop. The next morning. "I can't sleep, it's so noisy, what a dream, full of a rattling chain." Naruto mumbled, blissfully unaware that his tenant wholeheartedly agreed with him. "I didn't even check on the scroll Hiragi Jishin left me." He blinked at the thought and went to his window. He opened it and shouted to a tree on the left. Tori, can you tell Hokage Jishin I won't go to the academy today? Tori almost fell comically from his tree. Then again, it was just a daily portion of bruised pride when regarding Uzumaki Naruto. The boy could easily spot them and identify them by name. Naruto couldn't see them, but he could sense them. Sometimes he wondered if Naruto was a sensor type, but according to the Hokage, it was in the Uzumaki blood to have a sharp intuition. The ANBU side. Naruto-kun. He was about to chide the blonde boy but stopped when he saw the tired look on Naruto's face. What's wrong? Didn't get enough sleep. I can't sleep, he answered. Nightmare. Naruto shook his head. It was a noisy dream. The sound of a rattling chain echoing in a sewer. I will send a message to Hokage-sama, Tori said. Go back to sleep, Naruto-kun. My head is throbbing, Tori. The ANBU frowned. We'll go see a doctor then. Naruto was too tired to protest that he disliked hospitals. K. Sanada Enzu was the only medic Sandaime trusted to handle Naruto with care. She had been, after all, a dear friend of Kushina's. She had black hair that held a green sheen to it and steel-colored eyes. Enzu was dressed in the standard outfit for female medics of Konoha. She was one of the few medic nin lucky enough to be taught by Tsunade of the Sannin. She was not an apprentice of Tsunade, but back in the Third Shinobi War, she had been part of a medic class Tsunade had taught. In spite of her vast array of knowledge, she was nowhere near Tsunade's level, but she was good enough to be head doctor of the hospital. Unfortunately, her health was not the best and she would retire within the next 2 years. She had been reckless when she was younger and had been poisoned by a Suna nin on one of her missions. While immediate death was avoided by neutralizing the poison, Enzu had discovered not all of the poison from back then had been removed from her system. Now it was gnawing on her liver and heart and, within the next 2 years, would reach her nervous system and paralyze her. Enzu doubted Tsunade-sama herself could heal her, but she was content with continuing to serve Konoha. Her only worries were about Kushina's son. The boy was a frequent patient, though thankfully not because of the hate of the villagers. If she retired, would her replacement treat the boy like she did? The boy rarely got sick, but when he did it was just a mild flu or fever. He also received minor injuries from his prank escapades. Enzu recalled Kushina was the same way back then. At first, after she'd found out about Kushina's status, she was confused about why Kushina needed medical treatment from time to time. Apparently, her tenant wouldn't heal minor injuries, because it was beneath it to give so many favors. She recalled Kushina didn't have the best relationship with her tenant, and she had to wonder if it would treat Naruto the same way too. So, Naruto-kun had trouble sleeping. Enzu eyed her patient keenly, then briefly glanced at the bird-masked ANBU. The boy looked like he was sleeping soundly, but it was obvious he was troubled. All this time I thought he was the type who could sleep through an ox stampede. His mother could when she was off duty. Tori nodded. He said, it was a noisy dream. The sound of a rattling chain echoing in a sewer, he quoted. Enzu raised an eyebrow. Chain. That oddly reminded her of Kushina. I don't want to give him sleep medicine. She had learned from Kushina it wasn't effective anyway. I guess we can only observe him and make sure he is fine. There's nothing we can do for now. Enzu had no idea how correct she was. Naruto awoke to the sound of feral screaming and wet feet. He wondered how he got there as the last thing he remembered was napping on Tori's back on the way to the hospital. Since when did the hospital look like a sewer? It wasn't hygienic, right? He thought out loud, almost falling down when the feral voice screamed louder, thundering throughout the sewer. If you know it's unhygienic, don't turn your mind into a sewer, brat. My mind, he echoed as he ran to the source of the voice. Who's there? It didn't take long for him to find a giant cage and a pair of red eyes glowing in the deep darkness within. Kyubi moved closer to the bars with bared fangs. I see that my jailer has decided to grace me with his presence. He would have tried to intimidate the boy with his claws, but decided against it because distressing the brat risked the seal reacting in the undesirable way it did last night. Jailer. Naruto repeated. Who? Me. Yes, you. The Kyubi growled, and after a beat added under his breath, to my everlasting shame. He was pretty grumpy because of the noise from before and because of the fact it sounded eerily like Kushina's chain. Naruto looked at the giant shadow with red eyes with childish curiosity. "You're big." "Very observant," he said sardonically. Naruto beamed at that. "Thanks." Rubbing the back of his head with that sheepish smile eerily reminded the Kyuubi of Kushina's habit when she was embarrassed. "You're not even old enough to recognize sarcasm." Kyuubi rolled his eyes. "I bet you don't even know what sarcasm is." "Oh. Can you teach me then?" Naruto asked innocently. The giant shadow with red eyes was nice. For someone like Naruto who had been ignored by a majority of Konoha's population, having someone talk civilly to him was enough to consider said person as a potential friend. The ANBU were nice, but they only interacted with him if it was necessary. "What's sarcasm? Is it something good?" Kyuubi sighed. This was why he preferred his jinchuriki to be at least capable of comprehending he was a dangerous being. "Hey, what a child, whatever, go away brat. I need my beauty sleep." "Oh, you're a girl. I thought your voice was a bit low like man." "Sorry," he chirped. Kyuubi's left eye twitched angrily. "I am no woman, brat. Now go away and never come back." A spell of silence hung in the air until it was broken by a choked sob. "Hick." If anything, his eye twitching didn't subside even as the brat in front of him burst into waterworks. "Why are you crying, brat?" Naruto hiccuped. "You told me to go away, hick hick. Just like the parents of the children he tried to play with. You don't want me here, hick hick. You want to get away from me." He sobbed. Kyuubi sighed. "I wish I could." He had zero intentions of consoling the brat. Who cared if he cried? It was something new at least. Mito and Kushina never let themselves show any weakness in front of him. Then again, the brat was an innocent child. Unfortunately, he had nursed his hatred for too many years to care for the brat's woes. He was as unwilling as Naruto was with this arrangement of jailer and prisoner. In fact, more so considering he had dealt with confinement for many more years. Speaking of the brat, why had he become so quiet now? "You can't." "Why?" Naruto had stopped crying and was looking at the bijou with wide, curious eyes. There was something in those eyes, and Kyuubi's mind went into autopilot like all living creatures did when faced with puppy dog eyes. The eyes demanded to be given into too. "I was sealed in you, so like it or not I am going to be here for your whole life." Mentally, Kyuubi hit himself for giving in. "You." Naruto stammered in disbelief. "Will be." He took a deep breath, "with me forever." "To my everlasting shame," Kyuubi admitted with a growl. "I am inside your mindscape, so yeah, you live, I live unless you screw up." The last part was muttered under his breath. Naruto's big, blue eyes widened as he took in what Kyuubi said. He didn't understand why Kyuubi was stuck with him, but what he did understand was that someone would always be with him. He would never be alone again. So what he should do now was get the big shadow to like him. A new SAA. "Will you be my friend?" he asked with the most pleading voice he could muster. Kyuubi's eyes widened in disbelief. The brat asked what? Friend? Had he been dropped on his head or something? "Do you know who I am?" he asked back. "No." Naruto chirped. What in Rokudo Senin's name was the brat thinking? Wanting to be his friend was crazy enough, but asking someone he didn't even know to be his friend was even more bizarre. Then again, Kyuubi's previous jinchuriki never suffered isolation like Naruto did, because their status was a well-kept secret from civilians and lower-ranked ninjas. While Kushina had suffered a bit because of racism in the beginning, it hadn't lasted long because she'd begun dating Namikaze Minato and people had forgotten her foreign status in the midst of war. In Naruto's case, however, he didn't even have a clue about why he was hated and ignored to the point of being desperate for attention. The gears in his mind started working. The prospect of having a too naive jinchuriki affected their survival rate negatively. The previous night's incident was a testament to how dangerously naive Naruto was because of his longing. "Brat, do you know what happened on October 10th 6 years ago?" For survival's sake, the brat could cry himself hoarse, but he wasn't going to get both of them killed because he craved attention. Naruto tilted his head to the side. The Yondaime Hokage defeated the Kyuubi no Yuko and heroically saved Konoha. Everyone in Konoha knew about it, it was common knowledge. Kyuubi groaned as he moved forward, revealing his body to the child. As expected, the child froze. And yet here I am. That was the bullshit your old Hokage fed to you younglings. I am an immortal being. Not even the Yondaime could kill me. The strongest Bijou hissed, revealing his sharp teeth. Naruto looked up at the demon, stricken by fear at the sight of the nine-tailed fox. He was gargantuan. The tale about his gigantic body was not an exaggeration. You're the Kyuubi. You're sealed in me. Is that why grown-ups hate me? You're not as stupid as I thought. It seemed the brat was not a lost cause. They think you're my reincarnation or something along that line. Fools. All of them. They fear a helpless child like you, how foolish. Naruto stared at Kyuubi. Did the fox just give a sound reason about why he was hated? Did he just call the villagers stupid for hating him? For mistaking him as its reincarnation? Logic told him to fear the Kyuubi, but his heart was elated that someone else felt he didn't deserve their hatred. Humans are fickle beings, they can hate as strong as they love, are greedier than a demon and seek pleasure from slaughtering for power. Is that why you attacked Konoha? Naruto blurted out the first question that came to his mind without even realizing it. Because humans are horrible, he added. Were we punished by Kami-sama? Kyuubi couldn't believe his ears. Why didn't the child break out into a hysterical fit and blame all his misery on him? Why did he ask about the reason he attacked Konoha? Brat, I hate Konoha. A pure and simple reason for attacking the village. Why? Naruto asked again. Why you ask? Kyuubi returned the question with another. I hate Konoha, that's all there is to it. Naruto shook his head fervently. All this time, I never knew why they hated me, and it hurt so bad. He mumbled as tears streamed down his cheeks. I didn't know what I did to deserve it. To them, I am that child or Bakemono. They never cared about who I am, and yet they hate me so much. He looked up to his prisoner, azure eyes locked onto Kyuubi's red. When you told me why they hate me, I was so angry, scared, and relieved. The Bijou stared at the child with disbelief evident in his feral face. Relieved? Kyuubi repeated incredulously. You're relieved because now you know why they hate you. Naruto nodded. It still hurts, he admitted with a pained grin, but at least I know it's not my fault. Now, I know I don't deserve that hatred. That's why. I want to know why you hate Konoha and humans so much, please, tell me. Kyuubi couldn't believe he was considering responding. All his life he had been controlled and seen as a lesser being with the base nature of wrath. Uchiha Madara had viewed him as a tool to control with his so-called blessed eyes. Senju Hashirama called him a creature too terrible to be free, and Uzumaki Mito and Kushina bound him to them to keep the world safe from him. He was a mass of chakra and hatred they feared, and yet humans were ignorant of what caused that hatred to grow within him. They feared his hatred and yet they nursed said hatred by imprisoning and using him. All of them, even the shinobi who claimed to be the strongest among their kind, were guilty of this. And yet, this one child was the only one who had bothered to ask. A child of 6 years old, young even by human standards. Shikaku, Matatabi, Isabi, Sangaku, Kokuo, Seiken, Chomei, Gyuki, and Kurama, one day. Someday, will, true power. Kyuubi gritted his teeth, recalling the memory about the human who saw them as his children, the only man whose death he had shed tears for. This child bore many similarities to his father, so maybe this child was different than the other worthless humans. Your village has been imprisoning me for years, binding me to their will. He began. The Shodai Hokage captured and sealed me to keep me at bay, passing me on from generation to generation. Then 6 years ago I was freed from the seal. That's why you attacked Konoha when I was born? Naruto asked, his eyes still wide and glassy with tears. So many people died back then. Kyuubi snorted. If I'd had a choice, I would have left and never come back instead of risking my freedom to wreak havoc, the Bijou roared angrily, causing Naruto to be blown away into the watery surface. Revenge is one thing, freedom is quite another. But someone controlled me and made me attack your pathetic village. And guess what? I am sealed again within you. So, the attack is not your fault? Naruto asked. Hell no. See where it landed me? Kyuubi asked incredulously. I am no fool. And I. His eyes narrowed at his jinchuriki. The boy's shoulders were shaking. Brat, you. Ha 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 ha. What are you laughing at? Kyuubi roared irately. Naruto grinned from ear to ear. No, it's just, both of us are stuck to each other unwillingly, and neither of us are to blame. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Naruto kept laughing to the point Kyuubi thought his jinchuriki had gone mad. That only lasted for a short moment before a stream of tears soaked the child's cheek. Brat, are you crying, laughing, or both? They didn't seem like tears of happiness. It's just, it never ends, Naruto muttered sadly. I should hate the villagers since they made my life miserable, but, since they hate me because of you, I should hate you instead. But you're stuck with me because, it's someone else's fault. Naruto shook his head. It just goes on, should I hate the yondaime now for sealing you in me? No. He had to save Konoha, but then should I hate Konoha? And now, it's back to square one. His lips quivered. I thought I would be happy to know why I am hated by everyone, because then I could change their minds or even hate them back, but in the end, I can do neither, and it still hurts so much. Kyuubi eyed Naruto skeptically, looking for a sign of dishonesty. He found none. The boy was being honest. Then again, his family was never one to lie either. As much as he hated Mito and Kushina, he respected their sincerity. Other humans could betray and lie as easily as breathing, but not Mito and Kushina, and neither could this child, it seemed. I see, so what would you do, child? And as expected, the boy was unaware Kyuubi called him child instead of brat. I don't know. Kyuubi sighed, it was never this complicated with his previous jinchuriki. Will you be my friend? The fox stared at Naruto then sighed. I thought I would get used to your antics, but I'm not, Kyuubi admitted. Not even the boy's mother could be so persistent, or even think of being his friend. Then again, Kushina was told by Mito that he was a massive chakra full of hatred, while Naruto had no one to teach him that. Why would you want to be a friend of a bijou? One who has terrorized your village and made you a pariah. Naruto grinned his first true smile since he found out about his jinchuriki status. Tori once said, birds of the same wings gather together, ... I think you mean birds of a feather flock together, Kyuubi corrected, rolling his eyes. The boy blinked at that. Yeah. And you see, since we're stuck together. I thought. No. Why not? Just because. Naruto harumphed. I guess this is what they call the courting process. He had seen a jounin attempt to befriend a pretty lady, and after said jounin failed, another jounin came and advised his friend to take it easy and slow the courting process. Kyuubi eyed his jinchuriki skeptically, wondering why he had to deal with this instead of Kushina and Minato. Courting is to get yourself a mate, child. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. Nice to meet you. Naruto started, coincidentally ignoring Kyuubi's correction. What's your name? He had seen a girl his age using the same introduction to be another girl's friend. They backed away when he tried the same thing though. Kyuubi groaned. You know who I am. Naruto tilted his head to the side in confusion. Is Kyuubi your real name? Kyuubi groaned again. He would disrespect his old man who gave him the name if he dared to say yes to that question. It's what I am. Ninetales is not my real name. After a beat he added, and I'm not going to tell you either. But if it's what you are, I don't want to call you Kyuubi anymore. Naruto refused with a scowl. That's like the villagers calling me that boy or monster. They don't care who I am. Kyuubi sighed again. This was getting ridiculous. The brat was getting under his skin and he'd only known him for half an hour. It was record time. Fine. I am Kurama, and I. He shook his head. He was not going to rant about how he was the king of Mount Kurama, his tails, or his beauty like a certain ape brother of his. So your name is Kurama. Naruto beamed, and Kyubi was startled to see the boy was elated from learning his name. "Ne, my name means maelstrom, you know." Kurama snorted. The boy was a keen learner, observing how to make friends. What made the brat think it could work on a bijou? "Actually, you're named after another kind of Naruto that was randomly thought of when eating ramen," he muttered under his breath, recalling Kushina and Minato's conversation with the toad hermit. "Did you say something?" Naruto tilted his head to side, ears perked up at Kyubi. "No." "Oh, okay, so what's your name mean?" Naruto urged on, grinning from ear to ear. Kurama growled. "Enough is enough. Don't keep pestering me. You should be honored I even bothered to tell you my name. I am not going to be your friend and that's it." Naruto looked like he was about to protest but held his tongue. He shook his head. "I'm sorry for being annoying, Kurama. I'm just so used to acting that way so people will pay attention to me." The fox flinched involuntarily. That was a sore spot. "But I'm not giving up about being your friend, because then we can both stop hurting from this hatred. I guess I'll go now, but I will come back again, Kurama." He grinned. "See you later," the Jinchuriki said as he turned around and started to walk away. "Oi, Naruto. You can try." Kyubi considered that as a challenge and wanted to see if the brat would rise to the occasion in spite of all the odds. Naruto spun around, staring at the bijou in shock. That was not a yes to be his friend, but it definitely wasn't outright rejection. That meant one day, Kurama would accept him as a friend. That was more of a chance than any of the villagers had given him, and here the bijou they feared so much had given him a shred of hope. "Thank you, Kurama," Naruto muttered in gratitude. Then after a beat he added, "By the way, do you know how I get out?" Kurama's left eye twitched violently. "This isn't going to be the last time I deal with your idiocy, is it? Damn Minato and Kushina. Why did he have to deal with this? Oi, Naruto. For our survival's sake, stop trusting so easily." Unexpectedly, the boy nodded, his expression looking resigned as he accepted the truth reluctantly. "Also, keep this encounter a secret. As kind as your Hokage appears, he has to put his pathetic village above everything else, including you." Naruto nodded again. "I won't blame him for that either." He snorted at that. "Whatever, but bear in mind that your life is not your own, and maybe one day you can prove yourself to be the one we have been waiting for so long." Kara, what do you?" And everything went white. Naruto woke up and found the Sandaime hovering above him with a worried expression. "Hokage Jishin." Sandaime smiled at the child, caressing his yellow locks. "How are you feeling, Naruto?" The child stiffened for a moment, then his lips curved into a smile. "I am fine, Gigi." He grinned from ear to ear. As good as new after some good sleep. The Hokage instantly knew Naruto was hiding something, but he didn't know what, and it wasn't wise to pressure the child. It must be depression because the villagers treated him badly again. "I'm glad to hear that. It's almost dinner time and Sanada-sensei assured me you deserve a good meal instead of hospital food." Sanada knew how much her late friend and her son loved ramen. Ichiraku ramen. Naruto cheered. That night, another secret was made. In the back of his mind, Naruto wondered if the secrets would keep piling up or if he'd ever tell anything to Sandaime again. But if the Hokage and the whole village could keep secrets from him, why not the other way around? He should at least have that much.